Good morning, everyone. We are going to have another exciting session this morning. Debbie is going to give us a wonderful sneak peek into some great things that she's doing and resources that she's putting together for the Music for Everyone popular program. So, Debbie, so glad to have you here today, and I'm so excited to see what we're going to learn from you.
Thanks, Lois, and welcome everyone. And as Lois said, this is a bit of a teaser, sneak peek type of session. And we're excited to talk about this because our popular program, I think, is gaining momentum. And it's just such a great program for students who are maybe less interested in formal exams. It's about making students functional. And so we've been asked to put together some more support material. And that's what this is about today. So you're going to basically see there's two different series of what we're doing, and I'll talk about that as we go through. And we're not going to spend a lot of time on each page. I'm just going to basically show you what we're going to be offering. And I can tell you the target time frame is May of this year to have the first groupings of these items available to you. So what you're looking at right now on the screen is a sample, and I've just done the grade one example for you for today. And what we've done, this is material that's in addition to what's in the syllabus for each of these levels. And it starts with giving you more information. So it's bringing all of the general information together, which includes everything from repeats to memorization. And as we scroll down, you'll see that on the first page, it also lays out all of the requirements, which are in the syllabus, but it gives you just more details on how this breaks down and what the expectations are. I've included places where you're going to be able to find really helpful downloads. And so, for example, right here on the website for our official publisher, who is Harbridge Music, there is an all Canadian music catalog of materials. They're divided into groupings by themes as well. So that's something that you might want to check out. And there is a graded syllabus there of a large number of their publications um, per grade. So with open repertoire, some of these things are quite useful going forward. So you can check those out, and that's at their website. But this is giving you the outline of what the two repertoire pieces are for the popular. I'm not going to talk about the program itself. I'm talking about the tools today. So if we scroll to page 2, you're going to see immediately that this gives you a list of pieces that are available through Harbridges for with free backing tracks. And you'll see that if we have the Jazzy Day, but you can also use Connections by Christopher Norton because, of course, they that should say Norton. I just caught that typo. These still need to be vetted. But anyway, the Connections, that code is also the one that will get you to Chris's backing tracks from just by using that. And of course, so this gives you a list. Doesn't mean that these are the only things that you can use because they are not. They give you leveling ideas. They give you ideas as to what the expectation would be for this level. And so we're talking grade one students. Then we move on to the lead sheets. And what's added here now is chord structure. So we're showing you how the expectation would be that they'll be doing triads in block form and with inversions as well. So those samples are coming into play. And as we scroll down, again, we bring to you this at the very bottom there, we have still recommending the keyboard harmony books to help enhance this. Here's an example on the next page of what the lead sheets might look like. And now there's also a list of tips of things that will be really important to help you in moving this portion of the exam forward. And then comes our listing of lead sheets, again, available through our official publishers. And they're broken down by keys and by books. And I think there's even some on the next page, some seasonal pieces, because we know that students sometimes like to be able to do that. Sorry, they're later. Um, but on page 4, Ruth, you can move down, and here we have improvisation again with tips and recommendations on what the expectations are once again. Moving down the page, now we have specific suggestions for you. Again, products from our official publishers. And anytime there's something showing up in our books, like Seasons 1, it's an example of an aleatoric piece which has an improvisatory section. And on page 5, transposition. Um, Again, giving you the information that is in the syllabus, but adding tips and recommendations for things that will be helpful. Then again, a list of titles that will work uh, with the transposition ideas. These are all available again through a Harbridge music. And this is the one, I think if we go to the last page, it shows a few even for of seasonal pieces that could be used. And children are welcome to use anything they want. Again, this will give you grading ideas as to how to proceed. And it's just, I think, going to be really helpful material. You can teach them pieces by rote to use for harmonization. It could be pop pieces. Now, even in the transposition and the lead sheets, you may have taught it that way. They will need to present a score if they're doing the exam, excuse me, to the examiner if they choose to learn it that way. But they can go now and start to find things that they really want to play. The pieces, of course, that we're using and have published are all public domain. So they're older but catchy tunes. Sometimes the words are changed to accommodate more modern settings. Sometimes they're without words. And so just lots of materials that we would recommend. So this is the grade 1 document. And what's going to happen is there will be a separate document for each level. And what we're working on right now is from A basically to the F level, which is grade 2. They will be posted on the CNCM website, and you'll be able to just go in and pick out the one you want. Parents can download it. Students will be able to download it. You can download they can pop them into binders so they have them as quick reference as they're working through the program. So that's the first item that we're preparing. And again, the goal is to have those levels ready for May. We're not committing to an exact date because it also depends on our tech support as to when we're going to be able to upload these things and have them ready in that fashion. But they will be coming soon, and then we can add levels as we have them ready to move forward. So the second thing that I'm going to talk about is a series called Let's Begin Keyboard Fun. So this really is a new series. And again, it's independent in the sense that you could use it for any students. It would be a great program for students who come to you and, they're saying, or the mom's saying, well, we just want to have fun. This is a great series, I think, for that. Adults will benefit from it. It works for and has been endorsed for the Northern Lights CNCM popular stream within our program. And I think it could also easily be helpful if you're doing any Concan programs, especially their contemporary idioms program. But what it will also really do is be very helpful in supporting the CNCM musicianship portions like improvisation, transposition, harmonization. So we're trying to bring all of these things together, and it's going to make them really functional at the keyboard. So first of all, again, not going to go through this in detail, but what you have here first is an overview chart of how this series is working and what's going to be released first. This will start at C level, and we have the CD 1 and 2 books ready. They'll be again released in May. These will be accessible from the Harbridge website. So they're a product that will be purchased. And you can just see how the first column tells you how this corresponds to CNCM. So if we just look at the C1, for example, so if you're using Northern Lights books, this is probably primer 2 students. And it's the popular Crawley level. It also works with a piano series that I have, piano method book series that I have, which is Let's Begin. So that's where the title is coming from. But it would work for any third year student. It's based on that kind of knowledge. The lead sheets are all in C major and based on the pentascale. They are using C, F, G, and G7 chords, not chords, but single notes to start. And the pieces are with or without lyrics. Um, there's keyboard adventures and checklists, and it's all designed to help develop the processing that needs to happen because children left to their own devices can be successful, but at some point we might hit a wall where they really don't understand certain things because we haven't necessarily helped them with the processing or the step-by-step teaching from the known to the unknown, introducing one new thing at a time. So that's the philosophy behind the series as well. And transposition is from C major to F major and G major. They're all penta pieces. They actually transpose the pieces they're harmonizing because they're also only using the pentascale, and again, checklists and so on. And improvisation at this level, the improvisation is going to be based on little poems and rhythm, but all kinds of modalities get to be used here because they do not have to read extensively to be able to improvise. So they have a boogie, a whole tone, they use major, they use minor, and of course, always thinking about varied meters. So this particular collection will be triple and quadruple. So not going to go through all of the ones. So Ruth, I'll get you to scroll down. You can check this out. This gives you an overview of what's happening and where these correspond. So on the next page, we're actually going to just look at some sample pages of these books this morning, just to give you a little teaser on what's happening. So we're having a look at the level C. This would be page 3. So I'm just going to point out some things. I've highlighted some things for you. Our Mr. Star is going to show up actually for level C, D, and he will also be in level 1. So the idea is that he shines light on important information. And there is a lot of language which is necessary to really talk about all of this because we're not just talking about note reading now, we're talking about so many other things. So it's important that we have some way of making that feel manageable. So you'll notice that there are keyboard adventures. And this is where the processing is developed. We go step by step looking at things that kids should be doing to prepare for proficiency with this. And they're numbered. So you could have students who might, do 1 or 2 of the keyboard adventures and feel like they need to go home and practice 1 and 2. You'll have other students who will sail through all of the adventures for the piece. But you, as a teacher, will assess what's enough, what's too much, or maybe you do 1 or 2, you go and do something else in the lesson, and you come back to this, and you're able to move on. You'll notice the keyboard cues are there. You also have the notes added here because they're going to be reading the pentascale in C major. So here's an example of what's going to happen. So, can you just back up one little? I just forgot to mention one thing. Notice that in Adventure 2, in Adventure 1, they're actually playing the pentascale and singing the letter names. They're also playing the pentascale and singing the finger numbers. So all of this is tying together. Then in Adventure 2, initially they're working on the rhythm of what they're going to do. So encouraging them to always clap or tap, counting out loud or singing the lyrics as they're doing it. And then often finding, where are the steps, where are the skips, where are in this case, the pentascale. So that's going to be all useful material that brings everything together because the steps and skips is really going to help transposition. So if we look at the piece now, I'm stretching very tall. You can see it's a pretty simple little piece. And the first two pieces in this book appear first in this fashion with no chord symbols. So they're just going to play the piece doing the things in adventure 1 and 2. And when we go to the next page, so I've also given you page 4 so you can see how the whole thing lays out. It really is a lesson plan and parents know what to do at home. So we're working with the pentascale again, reminding them of where it is. This time we're going to also learn it in the left hand, 1 octave lower, beginning on finger 5. We talk about the most important notes in any key, which is the first note and the fifth note. And we have places where they have to write in the answers. Every time a student touches the page with the pencil, they retain information better. So this is important. I would also say to you, highlight or have them highlight. If they're not reading a lot yet, you highlight. You could highlight the whole adventure as to what's going to be the assignment and then use a different color the next week until you're through the 2-page spread. And we have sections of what's new. So this is a new concept, and this is what we talk about with chord symbols, explaining what they are, where they're placed, and what they look like, and that they are only using the first and the fifth note of the scale. So throughout level C, I still reference this as chord because it's going to build into chords, not necessarily in this book, but we're going to use that reference because it's going to build into that. And when it comes to the harmonization, so this keyboard adventure 4 is where they're going to now put the chords in the left hand after they've done some of the practicing with 1 and 5. And this gives them a step-by-step way to move into this. Notice that I really want them to use highlighters. And so the expectation in this book is that they would highlight all the C chords in one color, all the G chords in another color, and all the F chords in another color. So the chord symbols is what they're going to highlight. I would probably encourage them to choose a standard that they're going to use from piece to piece. And this is just going to jog their memory that these are different chords as they come to them. The whole thing explains how you play C, where you see the chord symbol on that beat. You play G, where you see the chord symbol. Every time you see the chord symbol, you play that note in the left hand. So the explanations are really simple, but it just morphs into something that they're really surprised about how great they can sound by doing these things. So we'll go on to the next page, Ruth, and this is jumping ahead to page 7 in the C book. And already we're able to move them to transposition because we're doing pentascales. And it's just such an easy thing to do using things that they already know about. So transport trucks, which can be semis and vans and any kind of truck, basically saying to them the transport trucks move things from one place to a different place. So to transpose on the piano, you move your hand from one place to a different place. That's all the explanation we need right now because anything else is going to be too much. We're going to expand on that as we progress. Once again, we see the pentascale. We work with the pentascale, so this is not new to them. They already understand that. So when we get to Adventure 2, and it tells them that that's the review, Adventure 2 gets them ready to transpose. And when we do the G major pentascale, I don't use the notes because they're not reading at that level yet. So we can just do this by understanding the pentascale, and they'll hear the sound is major in both. And so we work with the G major pentascale. And then in Adventure 3, the piece that they're going to do, in this case, they're going back to I'm stretching. And so they're going to trace and highlight all kinds of things. So one of the things they're going to highlight is the pentascale passages, suggesting they put an arrow over it, slanting upward if it's traveling upward, downward pointing, and so on. They're going to trace steps and skips, and if there's larger leaps, they'll be doing that as well. And this is really going to help them with the patterns that they're going to need. And it's blocked out here, but again, they're going to be writing down what note you start on if you're in C, what note you start on if you're in G, and we will progress to F major with the same process. So it's just a really easy way. They can be really successful, really fast. We're using a piece they already know how to play, so it's not like they're reading new notes immediately and then having to transpose. They're actually transposing something that they've already become familiar with, both from an audio aspect and from a visual aspect. And then the next page that we'll just take a quick peek at is also from level C, page 12. This is the second page of another piece. And this is where we're going to start to increase from just single notes in the left hand to adding what I have over the years had great success in just calling this a drum sound. So it's an open fifth. I can talk about that, but because we're not talking about fifths intervals necessarily in that way fluently at this level, it's an easy drum sound played with 1 and 5. And the keyboard fun has the C chord now is going to use both of those notes. F is still a single note, G is still a single note at this point, and then the drum sound closing that one. So the image of the drummer, the visual of what it would look like on the staff, even though they're not necessarily reading that yet, it shows them what it's going to look like. So we can put it on the keyboard fun page as well. So this walks the students through this particular piece now, the first time they see it, it does have the chord symbols because now they're not confused by what those are before we talk about them. So you can go, then they go back to this piece. I think this is skating, and they simply will be able to put the chords in now using the drum sound as well. And then there's a transposition challenge at the bottom of this. So instead of being pages of this, now they're able to go and move this into G major as well. It's doing only G major to start. F major will begin a little bit later, and then we'll review all of the pieces once again. The other part of this is to remind all of us, kids, parents, teachers, that we can do so many things with a single piece of music. It always worries people about how many things we might want to, um, how how much time it would take to do all these different things. The point is you can take one piece and do all these different things in minutes. And so it doesn't have to be time consuming or labor intensive to be able to do these. And next page, page 17 of the C book is taking them into improvisation. And again, our explanation is really, really simple. To improvise means to create something new. And this time we're not using staff, we're using only the pentascales, and it allows us to expand on more pentascales. So this one's going to be minor. Because we know the drum sound, we can move, if you scroll down just a little bit, Ruth, you can see now that we can just add the drum sound on the keyboard for this one. And we can now improvise maybe using both hands, but we're clapping the rhythm. It's on the next page, and the pages are always given. And then we're creating the melody. And when we move to page 18, you'll see how this is formatted. It's a poem. So through the adventures, they've learned to clap the rhythms and count them. They've learned to clap the rhythms with the words. And now they're going to do their melody with that. Once they have their melody done, they're going to add those drum sounds. And again, it's a really simple process. They'll remember words better than anything else. You can have them move to it, but all of the improvisations in level C are going to be poems, rhythms, and lyrics, right? Coming together. And then in this adventure at the end, we always have there's some other ideas other than those they've done through the adventures, what they could do. And this is where we talk about speed. And this one we actually talk about, maybe you could get faster where it feels scary, maybe you could get slower, things like that, adding drum sounds, and it just becomes a really fun thing for them. So I'll just talk about level D. So it continues in the very same manner. Once we get the first few behind us again, it slims down to just just a lead sheet on the page, and we don't have to have as much verbiage on every page, which is helpful. The lead sheets will expand to include C, but expanding the reading, as well as G major, and the lead sheets for the level D, G major ones will all be in pentascales to start. Tonic triad is going to be added in level D. In level C, we've actually also added the G7 chord as G with the thumb and F underneath. So by the time they're finished the C book, they're playing the C as a drum sound, F as a single note, G chords as a single note, G7s as F and G, and that's all explained and walked through one at a time. And I'm going to then go show you some pages from the level one. Again, you can see Mr. Star is still here because once again, we do have pages with lots of language. The but with Mr. Star, it's a little bit easier for them to just drop into these places because we're 2 levels later now from the beginning. We can see we move into 1 octave and solfege singing. Actually, solfege for the pentascales will start in level D. Here we expand to the full octave of the C major scale, teaching them the fingering of the C major scale, teaching them the solfege of the full octave scale as well, explaining things like the high do, why there's the little quote mark there, and then an explanation about major chords. So these are things they've already worked on. We're just giving more language to these as we're progressing. And so I've given you the first 2 pages. If you look at the next page, this is page 4 of the book. And so you can see now we have a great visual of how these chords look based on the entire scale. The linear boxes with the square edges, those are information boxes. And here we're talking about the triads again, and that the first note is called the root, and it's the bottom note of the triad. So and you see that information added as you go. Again, highlighting boxes that you want them to work on, because right below that we have a keyboard adventure. So they're using the chords that they just saw. They're going to play these chords consecutively. So they would play 1, 4, and 5 triads. And first they would play the chord and say each chord name as they play. So they'd be saying C, F, and G as they play. Then they're going to play that and they're going to say the chord number 1, 4, and 5. Then they're going to say the letters from bottom to top, C, E, G, F, A, C, G, B, D. So these are all important ways for them to think about these chords. We don't want them thinking about them only as the one chord or only as CEG. We want them to think of them as where they fit in the scale, which is what this little chart is about. We've got the solfege names here. We've got what the chord symbols will be. We've talked about Roman numerals and how that's going to look. And if you're using those, you're putting them under the staff. The chord symbols are appearing above the staff, and so on. So you can see how we're constantly building concepts, language, and everything is happening just one step at a time. They're not being bombarded. And they're isolated in these little boxes. So you can stop in that moment and do something else, come back to it. You just have to watch for the glazed eyes. On to the next. This is an example of one of the pieces from the level 1, which of course everyone wants to play Happy Birthday. Everyone should know how to play Happy Birthday. And a simple presentation of this. Down the page, you're going to notice that at this level, we're doing some little commentaries about the pieces. So kids start to get really interested about that as well. And at the bottom, this is how the keyboard adventures are handled now. So they're just showing up here as a list. And again, asking them to write in the key, walking them through all of the process. This also includes transposition. And so the lead sheets are in C, F, and G major, and they really are only required to transpose from C to F and G major. But within the book, they're actually doing it in any order. So this particular piece is in F major. So they do transpose to G major and then to C major. So, and I keep changing out the order. And so again, public domain pieces, um, all all the melodies are really, I think, very attractive. So I think it's easy to use that and just apply new words, or some of them have no words because the tunes are just so catchy anyway. So that's what we're using. Easy to move beyond this with this kind of support. This is page 16 of the Keyboard Fun 1. So we start to reduce how much is on the page, and you can see this box, the Keyboard Adventure. We have now a list in all of the books of checklists that they can go to. Once they've learned the process, then there's a checklist that they can use really, really easily, which makes the whole process quite simple going forward. So that's what it's telling them to do. Um, and you can see the chart here is telling them which keys, reviewing, pen to paper practice. And moving down the page, then we have at the bottom a little comment about it and taking them on another adventure. And this time they're also um, harmonizing their transposition pages. New musical term here was tassette. So it's just explaining to them that that's where they would release the chord. And it's easy to do. At some point, we also start where we get them to transpose the piece and harmonize it, just knowing that this is 1, 4, and 5 chords. So they're actually not only transposing the melody, but transposing the chords as well. And kids don't struggle with that at all when it's presented in a progressive manner. And in level 1, this is the improvisation page. This is one from page 24. So this is called Dreamscape. They're using the entire C major scale for their melody. You have your list for the improvisation keyboard adventure. And this time the bass is given. At this level, the bass is given and rhythm through to the end without anything else happening in between. So they are reading the bass line. They have two options. There's a repeat sign, so they're going to play the first rhythm the first time, the second rhythm the second time. And it's really important as well to just think about coming back to these pieces over and over so that they can do something different every time they come back to it and just have fun with it. And then, of course, level 2, it transposes from C major to D major. But we continue to do F and G within that so that it's constantly happening. Um, and at level 2, D major lead sheets are also added, but we also have lead sheets in F and G major as well. And so again, just advances the concepts. At level 2, they're actually starting to use what we call borrowed chords. So these are chords that they already know. So it might be a case of C major might end up using a D chord somewhere. They already know it. So if we just talk about it being a borrowed chord, we don't have to talk about that the music is actually modulating or it's a secondary dominant or things like that. They just uh, run with it because it's so simple for them to think, oh, well, yeah, I know a D chord. I can use that, no problem. Dominant seventh chords are added and they become just a 3-note chord at level 1 and level 2. All of the books have a chord page. So there's a page where they can quickly refer to, and or because these are going to be downloads, they might want to keep those in their binder as they progress through levels. There's a glossary of signs and terms. There's a companion page of other materials that might work well. And in level C and D, there are teacher notes so that you have a sense of how this could go together, how much you would use, other ideas about things that could be just helpful for you as a teacher. So that's an overview of all of these things that we hope are coming together in a timely fashion and can be really useful to everyone. The overview that's going to be placed on the CNCM website is going to be a free download. And remember, we're going to go from level A to level 2, which is the F level for those and available to everyone. The actual Let's Begin Keyboard Fun levels C through level 2 will be a download at Harbridge Music. So,
Perfect. Thank you so much, Debbie. That was great, and I cannot wait to see that up on the website. Just as you were talking, I was like, oh, I could start this with my students to get them ready for this book, or I could start this. And yeah, so that's very exciting.
and you
Um,
know what else, Lois? I'm just sorry to interrupt you, but
yeah.
um, it's often if you could, you sometimes need something exciting to get them like May, June, and hopefully doing something over the summer. This would be a great way to have something new that they have to work on and get through the basic concepts. And it might just draw them to the piano because it really is so easy. It's so easy to show them this, especially as little people. If we start lead sheets later on in life, it can be really intimidating because there's so much they have to catch up on, right? If we can do it progressively, I think it's just so much fun.
And it's such a great way to apply musicianship skills. That's what I love. I do a lot of lead sheets with my students, and you're right. For the older ones, I tell them they have to turn their head upside down because you're used to reading your left hand under your right hand. And so that's a big step going from reading right hand and left hand above. But
Mhm.
if you're doing it from day one, yeah, the little kids are just like, absolutely, yes, this totally makes sense.
Yeah,
And it's really, really cool. And even for the solfege symbols, um, yeah, the 8-year-olds, 9-year-olds are like, yeah, of course we'll sing and play. Like this is fun. And then, but try to get 13-year-olds started on that. It's like, I can barely even say the syllables because that's awkward.
yeah,
So,
yeah, yeah.
yeah. Oh dear. Anyway, does anyone have any questions about this fantastic resource that's coming up? Um, that was really comprehensive for me. I had one little question about the actual exam itself.
Mhm.
And that was for the improvisation part. You can use an improvisation piece like well, you had an improvisation example in your little package, but you also mentioned that you could just improvise a beginning to a piece. Would that be like any piece from their repertoire books? They could just come up with something?
Yes, yes. You want it to be long enough, right? That's the thing. Like you want, even at the early levels, you want it to be at least 8 measures. So I would say if they're going to use something they already know, you want to improvise an introduction and probably a tag, right? And maybe an interlude, okay? Or maybe do some improvisation while they're playing the piece as well. What we really would like it to be is where they're not just reading notes, that they have a basis that the examiner is going to ask them about too. What are you going to do for your improv? Show me what you're going to do. We don't want to see a written out improv because that's not what we're looking for. We're looking for show me what you're going to do or tell me what you're going to do. They can say, okay, well, so I'm going to use this rhythm and so the examples are pretty clear that I gave you. So they're going to use the poem. I'm going to base it on this key, and I'm just going to have fun with it, right? If it's a piece where it's a progression, for example, then they're going to tell us what the progression is, how many times they're going to play it, because once again, it needs to be long enough. So for grades, you know, C, D, even grade one, 8 measures is would be fine. But by even at grade one, we're looking for, maybe it needs to stretch to 12 for grade
Okay,
one, grade two. So as it progresses, we would be expecting something longer to be happening. So um,
makes
and it
sense.
could be as simple as if they're using a bass line, they could use an Alberti bass. They could use a piece that they already love if they love Alberti bass. So if they've just learned Alberti bass at say grade three, then okay, well, what are the chords you're going to use for your Alberti bass? And that's what's good. Actually at level three, I'll be introducing Alberti bass in that fashion. So it's just going to be a progression. This is how an Alberti bass works. And so if you have an 8 measure passage, then they need to do that twice with a different right hand improv that's going on. So that's how they're going to expand on it. They don't need to have 32 measures of different left hand. They can have, an 8 measure left hand that they basically continue to morph into or evolve into a larger piece. So,
Hmm. Okay, that makes sense. And that's how a lot of pop music and or modern, yeah,
well,
music
absolutely.
and theater work.
How many chords do they use? It's not that many.
Yeah. So then that would be cool because then you could even just tell them that, well, so and so artist that you love does this thing, and now you get to be like them and
Right.
create your own chord progression. And
Exactly. Yeah.
yeah,
And it's like in the level 2, for example, I already started into that because they have one improv that's starting to lay the basis for 12-bar blues. So that's going to continue in the next few levels. But yeah, exactly that. And what you could take this chord progression and all of a sudden, if you do this, this, and this, what does it sound like? Because in fact, in the mood is just that.
mhm.
So, and it's so surprising, it's like, what?
It's
It's not
pretty,
rocket science.
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But it helps
Um,
so much with analyzing pieces, classical pieces, right? Like,
yeah.
what if you said to the student after they've been doing this for a while, so you take the Minuet in G by the grade 3 one by Bach, and gave them the pencil and said, I want you to pencil in the chord symbols above every measure. We don't think about that, but if we do that, that's going to enhance memory, analysis, ear, so many things. Cadence structure,
Mhm.
phrasing, it's just something that I think we haven't done enough of over the years. And it wasn't encouraged, and now it is, right?
Mhm. Yeah. I do that. I have a couple of adult students, and the number of times that I'm like, oh, see, that's just like a G major triad. And they're like, what? And mind blown. So, yeah, if we just teach pattern reading really
Yes,
from a young age, then
yeah,
amazing things can happen.
yes.
Yeah.
Simple things that lead to big things, right? Yeah.
Hmm. All right. Does anyone else have any comments or questions or anything? Just check the chat. Okay, well, it looks like you did a fantastic job. Um, Thank you again. And everyone, please join us on May 7th for our next sharing session. Watch your emails to see what the topic is going to be for next time. And it'll be again at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. I don't remember if we're at EST or EDT right now, but yes, we'll see you there. And thank you so much, Debbie.
Thank you.